Dear students, welcome to E-Pathshala. This module is titled Causes of Species Extinction. As you know, the extinction is the death of the last individual of a species. How does this happen? As you know, the extinction is a worldwide phenomenon, it is not local. So, the member of one species going extinct means the last member should die and that should be the end of the whole species. This module will cover the basic the causative factors for the species extinction, geological factors, climatological factors, and how this phenomenon of extinction is different from extirpation or the local extinction. And also I will elaborate how this species extinction is different from pseudo extinction. In this module, we will also see the main causative factors for 5 major extinction events that happened in the Earth, the planet Earth till date. Finally, we will come to know about the ongoing extinction event in the Anthropocene. It is called acronym Hippo, H-I-P-P-O. We will come across that as well. So, let us start with the learning outcomes of this particular module. To learn about how the rate of extinction is crucial determinant for the global biodiversity at any point of time. The rate of extinction along with the rate of speciation, both are the main determinants of the global biodiversity at any given point of time. To know about the principal causes of the natural background extinction. So, what causes this background extinction that we will come across this module. To know the causes of the major 5 extinction events that happened in the past, and then we will learn about the ongoing 6 mass extinction that summarized in the acronym Hippo. So, introduction is that the various estimates that suggest that at present there are like 10 million to 1 trillion all species that are currently extant, that is currently living on the planet Earth. So, however, we know only a very little bit of this. So, only there are 2 million named species. So, vast majority, almost like 0.001% only we know. So, the rest 99.99% remain to be documented. And there is a huge crisis in this world that many of the species will go extinct even before the humanity could ever document, characterize these species. One of the common misconception in my students as well as for the general public is that majority of species extinction is caused by human activity, the anthropogenic activity, which is incorrect. Why it is incorrect? Because geologic time or evolutionary time scale is immensely deep. The Earth is 4 billion years old, 4.5 billion years old, where the life on Earth is only 4 billion years. So, 4 billion is such an immense time where our own species, the Homo sapiens, originated in the planet Earth only around 300,000 years back, 3 lakh years back, which is comparatively a recent phenomenon. So, almost 99% of the whole extinction event happened in the planet Earth, happened even well before the human beings came to existence in this planet Earth. So, it is not the case that it is all anthropogenic. So, it is estimated that more than 99% of all species that ever lived on this planet have gone extinct. So, what is species extinction? So, extinction, or also called species extinction, refers to the death of the last member of a species, and as you know, this one is a worldwide phenomenon. So, the last member, the death should be the end of the whole species. So, it is something like a death. As you can see in an individual's death, it is irrevocable. You can never go back to the life again. Similarly, once a species goes extinct, it is impossible to resuscitate that particular species back to the life again. So, it is an irrevocable process. So, as the definition is centered about the species, and of course, the species definition, as we will see that in the module on speciation, is very tricky and very subjective, the interpretation, what constitutes a species. So, all the logical as well as philosophical problems associated with the concept of species is applicable for the species extinction as well. So, the species extinction can be contrasted with yet another phenomenon called pseudo extinction. So, what is a pseudo extinction? It is analogous to the binary fission. See, in the case of binary fission, so it is like one bacterial cell that is dividing into 2 bacterial cells. So, that is called the one parent cell divides into 2 daughter cells. So, similarly, one contiguous population of one species somehow gets separated by geological phenomenon. For example, a mountain range. So, mountain range separates the same parent population into two to form two daughter populations, and each of these daughter populations diverge into two different species. Then what will happen to the parent population? That is not existent. So, you can never say that the parent population went extinct to produce the daughter population. That is incorrect to say that way. So, that is not really a species extinction, that is simple a cladogenesis, the formation of a new species from a pre-existing species. So, that is called pseudo extinction. So, lifespan of a species. So, how long will the species live? Again, it depends upon various species and various lineages of the tree of life. So, for example, the average lifespan of a species is determined to be 3 million to 10 million years. So, that is the average lifespan. Again, it is an average estimate, it is a range, and several species are very short lived, only few thousands years, while few species are extremely long lived. Those extremely long lived species are somehow sometimes we refer it as living fossils. One example is Ginkgo biloba, the plant, which has been in existence since Carboniferous, almost 200 million years old. Or silicon, the fish, the lungfish silicon, or cycad, the plant cycad is an example of a living fossil, which greatly outlived the approximation of around 10 million years. The species extinction can also be contrasted with yet another phenomenon that is called extirpation. So, extirpation is a local extinction. So, extinction of a particular species from a local community or a habitat. For example, in an island, the last surviving species of a bird goes extinct. That is called local extinction or extirpation. But in the ecology, the term extinction is used to refer the local extinction. So, there is a subtle difference of the term extinction used in ecology as well as that used in the other sciences. So, extinction of one species, especially keystone species, have huge repercussions on the rest of the ecological niche in which the extinct species was part of, causing the knock-on effects on several other species of the community. One example is that consider elephant in a savanna ecosystem, for example, that in Africa. So, as the African elephant is a keystone species, it actually eats the bushy plants as well as the trees. That it's very essential that the elephants needs to be in the savanna. So, if the elephant goes extinct, the savanna is no more a grassy savanna, it will be a bushy land, it will be converted into a forest where most of the community structure of the savanna will be totally eclipsed, and most of these species will go extinction, the local extinction. So, it will knock on a chain reaction of various local extinctions. So, there is a phenomenon in the extirpation. So, if the species is endemic, so that means it is not found nowhere else on the world, only in that particular location. For example, you can consider an island, and that particular species is found only in that particular island. So, local extinctions of that island, so local extinction or extirpation of that species in that island means death of that species in that island is synonymous with the global extinction, because that species occur nowhere else on the world. So, in terms of endemic species, extinction from a simple locality, for example, a fish going extinct in a lake, if that is an endemic species that found only in that particular lake, it is synonymous with the global extinction. So, that is the reason the conservation programs often often are biased towards hotspot, the areas with high endemic organisms for these reasons. So, what are the hotspot? These are biodiversity hotspots, are regions with extraordinary level of endemism for the vascular plants. So, by definition, the biodiversity hotspot is skewed towards vascular plant diversity. So, it should have at least 1500 species of the endemic vascular plants for the biodiversity hotspots, and it need to have lost at least 70% of its original habitat. So, these locations, the hotspots, needs to be under tremendous anthropogenic pressure to call it as a hotspot. So, that is why these hotspots are the main concentration, main objectives for most of the worldwide conservation program, because these hotspots are tremendously under pressure from the expanding human population. while the hotspot criterion is based on endemism and loss of habitat, it is skewed towards the vascular plant. As I told you, it needs to be having 1500 species of the endemic vascular plants. So, vascular plants are the plants with xylem and phloem, as you see the higher plants, but it does not take into consideration of lower plants, for example, cryptogams, algae, mosses, ferns, other living beings, animals. Even though a particular location have a huge number of animals, you can never call it as a hotspot. So, that is an inherent problem. Fungi, protozoa, bacteria, the virus, nothing is taken in consideration while defining the term hotspot. So, there are a number of hotspots in the world, out of which 4 are in India. 4 hotspots in Indian subcontinent are the Himalayas, which is later added. The original 3 hotspots were Western Ghats in South India and Indo-Burma region, that is on the northeast India, as well as including the island of Andaman and a little bit of the islands, the Nicobar island is part of the Sundaland, that is yet another biodiversity hotspot. So, we have got now 4 hotspots in India. The 4th one lately added is the Himalayas, including the east too, as the whole Himalayan region is the 4th biodiversity hotspot. So, IUCN have come up with the red list, that is enlist the conservation status of the species. So, is the species is vulnerable, threatened or extinct, all these different labels are being given to different species, that is on the verge of extinction in the IUCN red list. So, those that are verge on the extinction are grouped into threatened or endangered. So, these species are in imminent threat of extinction. So, some species have gone extinct in the wild. So, only surviving members of those species you can see it in the zoo or botanical garden, the so called ex situ conservation. So, those species are called extinct in the wild. One example is a white rhino. The last March, so 19th March of 2018, few weeks from today. So, the world's last surviving male, the white rhino has gone. The rhino has died in a conservatory in Kenya. So, now that the world has just 2 females of white rhino named Najin and Futu. So, the extinction of the white rhino is now confirmed. Nothing we can do to obviate the tragedy in waiting. So, it's extinct in the wild. So, we have only 2 female. So, of course, regeneration from these 2 female is next to impossible unless we do some in vitro fertilization as well as the cloning. Of course, you need to have the cloning. So, what causes these natural extinction? Most of these extinctions ever happen in the planet Earth are natural, and that can be of 2 types. So, natural background extinction and mass extinction events. So, natural background is ongoing extinction event every single day of the last 4 billion years, while mass extinction event is extremely rare, but this is very important because that actually kills almost the entire diversity of plants and animals on the earth, including marine and terrestrial flora and fauna. Causes of these natural background extinctions are multifaceted and often unknown. For example, it is analogous to the causes of a forensics expert, that is actually they are the forensic expert, they are looking at the causes of a person, a dead person. So, during the post-mortem, so that we can only reason with a certain number of probability for the possible reasons. So, you can never confirm what really caused a species to go extinct. It's like an individual to go die or murder. So, often there are contrasting hypotheses for the same extinction events. So, ecological or climatological or geological are major factors, that is the causative factors for the natural background extinction. So, in ecology, between species competition is one of the major driving factor for the similar resources. So, resource utilization, competition between different species, which is quite analogous to the natural selection, but in the case of natural selection that happens within a species. So, mostly it is between the population, right. The natural selection happens at individual level of the population, but in this case it is between species inside a community. So, while natural selection acts on the individuals of a population, Intraspecific competition occurs at the level of the community. One example would be various zooplankton species competing for the phytoplankton on the sea surface. So, species can also lose its competitive advantage over other species when the habitat it occupies changes in response to various biotic or abiotic factors. For example, desertification. So, when an area becomes a desert, so associated changes on flora and fauna will drive a number of species to go extinct. So, however, you should note that such extinctions are local in nature. Some species might be living at some other locations of the planet Earth, and how much is the species distribution or the range, how big is the species range is an important determinant. Will the species be survived in the case of an extinction event? For example, certain number of insects, members of insects, one example would be tardigrades, whose species range is extremely vast. The tardigrades you can find in space, you can find even underneath the ocean. So, it is very difficult for the tardigrade species to go extinct, but you can contrast that with the frog species. The amphibians are mostly endemic, so they are restricted to a particular location. So, for the frog species to go extinct is a lot more easier comparing with that of the tardigrade because of the species range. What causes the global massive extinction events? So, there are several number of causes. So, you can never say that all these 5 mass extinction events were caused by just one factor. That is impossible. So, there are multiple factors, and it is more often multifaceted. So, natural catastrophes could be one major reason. One reason could be asteroid impact or high UV or infrared irradiation, and sea level fluxes, anoxia, global glaciation, volcanisms, and many of these factors could be the causative agent of the next factor. For example, asteroid impact would cause massive UV radiation while the asteroid is actually impacting on a particular place on the Earth's surface, and after the impact the dust will be spewed all over the atmosphere. That will cause nuclear winter. That will lead to global glaciation, the cooling down. So, the global glaciation would cause the sea level fluxes, while global warming will cause the rise of sea level, glaciation will cause the dip in the sea level. So, all these are interconnected, so as the climate change. The 5 major extinction events that have ever happened on the planet Earth. So, these major 5 extinction events are the Cretaceous tertiary event, or also called KT extinction or Cretaceous Paleogene extinction event, which is the most recent one. Triassic Jurassic extinction event, Permian Triassic extinction event, late Devonian extinction event, and probably the first one is Ordovician Silurian extinction event. So, we will come to across all these major 5 extinction events, the causative factors of this. So, mass extinction events, what are these? You should note that these mass extinction events are extremely rare in Earth's deep geologic time. Isolated extinction events are much more common. So, local extinction events are a lot more common. Background extinction events might have caused a lot more number of species extinction rather than the mass extinction events, but yet mass extinction events are very interesting because it caused extinction of a lot of species en masse. Almost more than 70% of all species will go in one go. So, all 5 extinction events therefore mark as the boundaries between the respective periods above and below of the extinction events. So, most of these extinction events are marked in the rock layers, one above and one below. So, you can see a drastic difference between the layers over the extinction events. So, extinction events might not always be due to the higher rates of extinctions alone. So, let the name extinction event not be confusing to you. It could also be due to the fact that the speciation, rate of speciation is very low. So, either rate of extinction is very high or rate of speciation should be very low. So, either way it will lead to a decrease in the global biodiversity. So, it could be entirely due to the low rate of speciation that we will see. One of the global extinction event was due to the low rate of speciation, not really because of the high rate of extinction. So, we will see that exact causes of the different mass extinction events. So, while the exact initial causes are mostly debated, except in the case of the last extinction event, that is KPA, that is Cretaceous Paleogene, all the four the initial cause is still debated. The after effect is almost uniform. So, fluctuations in the global climate and the sea levels, volcanisms and impact events resulting in ejection of the toxic gases, ashes, aerosols in the atmosphere causing the greenhouse effect, reduction in the primary productivity caused by the darkened atmosphere, destruction of the food chains, and anoxia, which is depletion of the oxygen. So, all these are after effects of the initial event that drives the mass extinction event. The first one is Ordovician Silurian extinction event, that is also called OS, the abbreviation, which happened around 450 million years ago, which is the second most devastating, most severe extinction event, which has wiped out almost 85% of all marine species. So, the cause is thought to be massive glaciation, the most severe glaciation in the current eon of Phanerozoic. This happened in Phanerozoic, of course, and this is the most severe glaciation where almost the entire surface of the earth was glaciated during the event of the Ordovician Silurian extinction event. So, during the glaciation, sea levels drop, as I just explained to you. During the glaciation, sea levels drop, while during interglacial, the relative warm period, sea levels rise. Right now the sea level is rising because right now it is interglacial. So, next glacial time, glacial cycle, the glacial maxima, the sea levels will start sinking once again. So, it will lead to extreme fluctuations in the global sea level. So, what explains the Silurian Ordovician extinction event? There are two explanations. The first explanation I told you, the glaciation. The second one is the massive gamma ray burst from a hypernovae 6,000 light years ago from the earth. So, that even 6,000 light years is such an immense distance. So, light years is, as you know, it is a measure of the distance. So, how long will it take, for the light to travel in 1 year. So, the distance that the light takes to travel 1 year is 1 light year. So, 6,000 light years is really far away, and even though the supernovae is quite far away, it is not merely supernova, it is a hypernova, extreme extreme explosion of all these star dusts that might have caused a gamma ray outburst, and even a 10-second gamma ray outburst would have been removed half of the ozone layer. So, that effect is a lot more serious, because without ozone layer none of the surface inhabitants on the planet Earth could ever live. So, resulting several plant species and will go extinct almost immediately, and the resulting UV exposure, because of absence of the ozone layer, the UV exposure, the radiation will be quite high. That would have wreaked havoc at the primary trophic level. So, affecting the entire ecological niche and driving many species to the extinction. And now we have a third, the contrasting explanation for the same Silurian Ordovician extinction event is a volcanism creating siliceous rocks all around the world. When these rocks weathered, it removed the CO2 from the atmosphere that led to the glaciation. So, that is a very interesting explanation. The particularity of the siliceous rock is that when the siliceous rock weathers, so it actually removes the CO2, it absorbs the CO2, because siliceous combined with the carbon to form silicate rock, the rock. So, it sequesters, it removes the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. As the CO2 is a greenhouse gas, more and more CO2 is being removed from the atmosphere, that will result in the global cooling and ultimately a glaciation. So, probably that might have caused the initial glaciation event. Second in our extinction event is late Devonian extinction that happened 370 million years ago between Devonian and Carboniferous eras. So, it has wiped out almost 70% species. In terms of extinction intensity, late Devonian extinction is the least severe amongst the big five. So, the main trigger of this extinction event is the evolution of vascular plants in the Devonian. So, whenever the vascular plants have evolved in the Devonian era, so that have actually consumed a lot more CO2 from the atmosphere, and that led to the global cooling. So, expansive forest of the giant trees covered much of the land masses during the Permian period. So, with the two effect, what are the effects of this expansive forest covering the earth during the Devonian period? The first and foremost, these deep rooted trees mobilized deeper soil layers, causing the weathering of the siliceous rocks as well as the nutrient runoff to the ocean. So, because the siliceous rocks weather, as I just explained to you, the siliceous rock weathering would cause CO2 sequestration that would lead to the global glaciation. Now, nutrient runoff to the ocean would cause the nutrient load to increase in the oceanic habitat, that would lead to eutrophication, and eutrophication is nothing but the oxygen consumption by the algal blooms. So, that would lead to anoxia. Anoxia is very less dissolved oxygen levels on the global ocean. So, finally, that would asphyxiate the entire the marine organisms. So, that is the first level. Now, second consequence of the planet-wide deforestation is CO2 sequestered by these trees through the formation of massive coal deposits, the CO2 direct sequestration by the trees of the Devonian era, that might have actually led to a global glaciation. As atmospheric CO2 was removed, global cooling began, and that finally culminating in the late Devonian glaciation, resulting in the ice house phenomenon that would extend much of the subsequent Carboniferous and Permian periods. Next is Permian Extinction event that happened 252 million years ago, and in terms of extinction impact or intensity, Permian is the biggest one. It is also called the big dying event. So, it drove the extinction of 96% of the all marine species. So, it is like the complete devastation. So, that is the biggest extinction event in the history of the life on planet Earth. There are several contrasting explanations for the cause, yet there is no consensus exist. Recent research have led to a kind of consensus about what really caused the Permian extinction. The consensus is that there is a giant impact by a massive bolide, the asteroid, approximately 250 kilometer in diameter, the biggest asteroid impact ever that the Earth has witnessed, and that is the most popular cause. Now, an indirect existence of such an impact crater near Falkland Islands near Antarctica was discovered in 1992. So, such a crater, the indirect the fluctuations in the magnetic activities. So, it has been published in 1992 as revealed by a circular anomaly in the gravity. The impact might have triggered extreme volcanic activities at the antipode of the impact site. So, it is near Antarctica, that is in near South Pole. So, the antipode of that impact crater is in the north. So, near the North Pole in the Russian Siberia, it might have actually caused volcanic eruptions. One of the most expansive igneous the deposit on the planet Earth, Siberian traps, had been dated to be around this time perfectly in agreement with the bolide impact hypothesis. So, extreme volcanism at Siberia might have ejected massive amount of ash, toxic gas and carbon dioxide into the atmosphere that might have actually formed a kind of layer that might have blocked the sun rays to come inside. So, it might have triggered a nuclear summer, and subsequently the entire Earth might have actually glaciated. So, all these are the chain of events that might have triggered by the initial bolide impact. So, it also caused the ignition of massive core beds that resulted in further rise in the oxygen levels and more atmospheric ash. The dense ash layer might have completely blocked out the rays reaching the Earth, collapsing the ecosystems of both ocean and the land. So, the Permian extinction event, the impact crater was off the Falkland Islands as revealed by an anomaly in the gravity. So, why does most of this impact happens in the ocean? Because the Earth is almost ocean, right? 71% of the Earth's surface is 71% of the surface of the Earth is ocean. So, chances are very high that a stochastic impact of an asteroid would happen in the ocean rather than on the land. Next extinction event is Triassic Jurassic extinction that happened near the beginning of the Jurassic, so end of Triassic, almost 200 million years ago. So, it wiped out 70 to 75% of the all species on the the Earth. What are the after effect of this? It paved way for the expansion of the dinosaurs. So, previous sauropsid mammals, so the reptiles, they actually outcompeted by the dinosaur, because the competent of those dinosaurs actually went extinct during this particular extinction event. So, in contrast with the rest of the 4 extinction event, only TJ event among the big 5 was the result of the decrease in speciation rate, because the background extinction rate remained same, only that the speciation rate went down. So, as revealed by a number of modern scientific research. So, background extinction rate remains same, but the speciation, what actually drive the speciation rate to go down? So, there might be a various mechanisms. So, amongst the contrasting hypotheses, the gradual climate change hypothesis, along with the ocean ice acidification. So, exactly same thing as of today. So, today in the world is suffering from the global warming, and also by the ocean acidification, as you see, because of the greenhouse effect, because of the extreme CO2 levels as well as the methane levels in the atmosphere. CO2 mixed with the oceanic water and the marine water, the sea water, the pH of the sea water goes down. So, the acidification happens because of the carbonic acid formation, right. So, all these are slow process. So, this exactly same climate change might have triggered the TJ extinction event as well. So, asteroid impact and volcanic eruptions are contrasting hypotheses for the TJ extinction events, but in the case of asteroid impact or volcanic eruptions, anybody would sufficiently argue to see an increased extinction event, but in this case extinction rate was not actually, no anomaly was observed in the case of extinction rates, but only that the rate of speciation went down. So, a possibility that the series of volcanic eruptions initiated great changes in the global carbon cycle that resulted in comparatively high intensity climate change. An immediate aftermath of this extinction event is the breakup of the supercontinent Pangaea, but you should know that the break of Pangaea is not connected to the TJ extinction. So, TJ extinction event was not the cause of the breakup of the Pangaea. So, that is not related at all, because it is an extinction event that concerned with the global biodiversity. Major extinction event is the latest one, that is called Cretaceous Paleogene, KPA, also called KT, which is quite popularized by various movies as well as documentary. For example, the dinosaur movies, a number of movies that came for the Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, the KT extinction event is prominently featured in these movies. So, the cause of this particular event is almost certain. There is a consensus exists that the cause is now considered to be thought to be the asteroid impact, a big asteroid that actually struck the Chicxulub location. The crater is called Chicxulub in the Yucatan coast of the Mexico. So, the asteroid might have been at least 180 kilometer in depth in the diameter. So, which is almost like the Permian one, but Permian one was a little bit bigger, 250 diameter, but this one is 180 kilometer in the diameter, which is immense, really immense. So, this crater, the now famous oval submarine Chicxulub crater, as you can see in this picture. The key discovery of this particular impact hypothesis happened in 1980 by the famous physicist, the American physicist Luis Alvarez, who was subsequently awarded with Nobel Prize for this discovery, along with his son, a geologist, Walter Alvarez. They found that the layer of iridium in that particular rock formation around 66 million years back contain iridium, that is a rare earth element. So, the concentration of iridium in that layer is 160 times that found in the nature in the earth. So, it is highly unlikely that this iridium came from earth. It might have came from an extraterrestrial source, that is by the impact of this particular asteroid. So, this is actually a beauty of working with geology. So, the log layers are uniform. So, no matter where you sample, Japan or China or South America or South Africa, 66 million years old layer of this particular rocks are all similar, and all these layers contain this iridium. So, that is actually a very good substantiating evidence for this particular hypothesis of KPA. So, it might have triggered series of events. The first one is that when this particular asteroid hit, so it might have caused a massive infrared irradiation, instantly killing most of the surface dwelling organisms on the planet Earth. So, the burning of released immense amount of ash and soot that blocked out the sun, a phenomenon known as the nuclear winter. So, sun rays cannot actually come in it because of the ash layers, a layer of ash actually prevents the incoming of the sun rays. So, it is pitch dark throughout the earth. So, it might have drastically brought down the temperature of the planet earth. So, glaciation happened. The impact site was rather rich in sulfur. So, again that might have caused the sulfur, as you see it will actually go to the sulfuric acid, and acid rain might have actually happened, that it might have triggered acid rain, as well as the acidification, the global acidification, killing the phytoplankton. So, killing the phytoplankton, the picoplanktons in the ocean might have actually reduced the oxygen level of the atmosphere, asphyxiating most of the aerobic organisms. So, mean ocean temperature hovered around 7 degrees Celsius throughout the world. See, it's quite cold. So, it's all because of the global cooling that happened after this KT extinction event. Simultaneous volcanic eruptions at various regions of the globe happened around this time, is now considered to have been triggered by this initial bolide impact. Amongst these volcanic eruptions is a famous one that resulted in Deccan traps in India. So, India have got Deccan traps. Again, that Deccan traps is dated around 66 million years old, perfectly in agreement with this initial bolide impact. Last extinction event is the acronym Hippo, Hippo, and there seems to have a consensus among the climatologists as well as the geologists that the planet Earth is currently undergoing a major 6th mass extinction event caused almost entirely by the human activity. So, this is totally anthropogenic, beginning in 17th century after the industrialization in UK, Britain. Hippo, Hippo is a 6th mass extinction in the Holocene, and now the boundary is almost confirmed in around 17th century. Now, this particular eon is called the Anthropocene, the latest period of the geological history, Anthropocene, because of the human being. So, Hippo, the acronym stands for habitat loss and destruction, the human mediated destruction as well as conversion, and the loss of the habitat, for example, the wetlands. Invasive species, because of the introduction of the species by the exotic species that wreak havoc on the local region where it is actually invaded into. Pollution, because of the human activity, tremendous load of the pollution is being discharged into into the world, and that is actually killing of many number of species. Human population, probably this is a root cause of the entire Hippo phenomenon, the population expansion that is causing tremendous load on the atmosphere as well as the biodiversity. And finally, over harvesting the resource. So, unsustainable use of agriculture and fishing is driving a number of species to go extinct. So, in summary, the process of extinction along with the speciation determines the biodiversity at any point of time. So, despite the public perception, most of the extinction that have happened in the history of life on this planet was due to the natural causes, not mediated by the human beings. Extinction is different from pseudo extinction and extirpation. Natural background extinction events are caused by a number of factors: ecological, climatological, natural catastrophes as well. Vast majority of the species extinction happened at isolated places. Although rare, 4 out of the 5 mass extinctions resulted in the extinction of a vast number of species en masse. So, 4 out of 5 extinction was caused by increased rate of the extinction, species extinction, while 1 is caused by decreased rate of the speciation. Each of the 5 mass extinction had its own causative factors. In general, these factors include asteroid impact, volcanic activities, changes in the global carbon fluxes, climate change, ocean acidification, extreme fluctuations in the sea levels, blockade of sunlight because of the ash and soot in the upper atmosphere, resulting in the global cooling and nuclear winter. There is a consensus among the geologists and paleontologists that since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, the Earth is undergoing the 6th mass extinction that delineate the present epoch, Anthropocene, from the preceding epoch, Holocene. The present mass extinction event is caused by the 5 principal factors: habitat loss, invasive species, pollution, human population, and overharvesting for the resources, summarized in the acronym Hippo. So, in summary, species extinction is very important driving factor that determines the global diversity at any given point of time. Mass extinction events are extremely rare, but these are very important, and most of these mass extinction event, the initial cause we are not really certain. And the earth is currently undergoing the 6th mass extinction event called Hippo, that is mainly driven by the human mediated. So, the current epoch is called Anthropocene, or because of the human mediated anthropogenic activities, that is driving a number of species go extinct. Extinction is also different from local extinction, that is called extirpation in ecology, as well as pseudo extinction or the cladogenesis in the phylogenetics. Thank you.